entire career working on water and water management in some form. So it's nice to see a lot of people that I've worked with in the past here today, and also a lot of fresh new faces that are new to me anyway. So it's really nice to see some young people getting involved in this field too. I was really impressed with yesterday's presentation. I did want to comment on that too, and how innovative we are doing things in Atlantic Canada. And this isn't anything new. We've been a leader in the country for many years in freshwater, but it was really great to see those presentations and some of the new tools that are being used. Just wanted to comment on that. So I'm going to talk to you, yes, about the Canada Water Agency, the new agency, and what led to its formation, its mandate, what it's doing as defined so far, and the Freshwater Action Plan, which is some of the implementation components of the Canada Water Agency that we're going to be doing across the country. And I'm just going to cover some of the funding programs for freshwater that have come over to Canada Water. All right, so what's behind the development of the Canada Water Agency? Now, this information is not going to be new to you. All of the practitioners who are working in water management, this is a no-brainer, but the challenges to freshwater quality and ecosystem health aren't new. There's long been an understanding that the management of freshwater has been fragmented and complex. There are over 20 federal departments and agencies, just federal, working on freshwater activities. So it's very complicated. And this is just at the government level. On the ground, there's so many other practitioners, NGOs, academics, all working. It makes the whole sphere very complex. And the freshwater challenges, again, nothing new, but with the increase in climate change, with storms, floods and droughts, fires of recent times, it's really brought the focus to the fact that we need to manage freshwater better. And all of this led to the federal government to look to find better ways to manage freshwater. So before the Canada Water Agency was formed, there was a process to ask Canadians what they thought about the development of this agency. And the engagement strategy was launched during the pandemic in 2020, and it included the release of a discussion paper outlining the potential options for the water agency, like getting that public input. It got input from provinces and territories, as water is a shared jurisdiction, and also the engagement of Indigenous First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. And workshops were held across the country. Some of you may have participated in some of these activities, maybe you didn't even know about them, but it was during the pandemic too, so it was all virtual, and other things were going on at the time. So what we heard from those engagement processes were that there was, of course, significant support for the creation of a Canada Water Agency. There's a need for leadership, coordination, and action, and the federal level seemed to be a logical level to do that. And the importance of including, in a more formal way, Indigenous participation and recognition of Indigenous rights. So the Prime Minister got the message, and the federal budget last year, 2023, did commit significant funds for freshwater, and including the creation of this. So the Canada Water Agency was established last year as a branch within Environment and Climate Change Canada. However, it's going to move out to its own agency outside of ECCC within the next year. So it'll be like Parks Canada Agency or the Canada Revenue Agency. And legislation has been tabled last fall to make this happen. But there'll still be some strong connections to ECCC. My printer is going, I apologize. And we'll have the same minister between Parks, Environment, and the Canada Water Agency. And still have strong linkages with the department because there's still going to be lots of scientists within the ECCC doing research and science on water. So the headquarters is in Winnipeg, Manitoba. You may have heard that. So there's a core group of people there. And it says with staff across the country, across Canada, but right now it's just me in the whole Atlantic provinces. So it's hopefully it will grow. We are planning to staff a small office here in this region, but for now I'm the contact for the Canada Water Agency and the Freshwater Action Plan. So if you have any questions or anything, you can reach out to me and I can point you in the right direction. So the mandate of the agency is to improve freshwater management in Canada through leadership and improve coordination with the provinces and territories and Indigenous people to address freshwater challenges. And also to deliver the Freshwater Action Plan to restore, protect, and manage these key priority watersheds that are of national significance. And I'll talk about those in a little bit. So what will the Canada Water Agency do? So these are the national functions of the agency, the high level things that are going to be done over time. So we'll provide freshwater policy leadership on the development of whole government solutions to freshwater challenges. So that's whole of government, meaning every level of government working together. Create a coordinated federal perspective, those 20 agencies that are working on water, trying to rein those together and provide a more of a coordinated perspective. Address fragmentation of freshwater responsibilities between all levels of government. Engaging the Indigenous people in the development of freshwater policy and in the path towards reconciliation of freshwater. Strengthening freshwater science in Canada and leveraging science to improve policies and programs of the government. And this one I think you'll be interested in, developing a national freshwater data management strategy. Now I know you're all collecting data of some kind with your monitoring programs. So this is something of interest. I'm going to talk a bit more in the next slide, just to give you some more details. So that's to develop an integrated, coordinated, and standardized approach to freshwater data. And then lastly, there's the modernization of the Canada Water Act. So this act was developed in 1970 and hasn't really been updated since 1985. So that's 50 years, way before a lot of you were even born. And so that act provides a framework for cooperation between the federal government and the provincial government and territories on water management. So the Canada Water Agency is going to update that to reflect the current realities of climate change and Indigenous rights, things that weren't even really thought about back in 1985. So these are all the policy functions. They're not clear yet how this is all going to play out on a national level. We're still in early days, it's very new. And each one of these components will have its own team of people working on these nationally. I do want to say here, this is a long game. These issues in freshwater management are long, deep-seated issues, and they're very complex, and they're not going to be solved quickly. So just to put that a management of expectations there. But the good news is, I don't want to diminish what we're doing, that we now have a dedicated agency to work on these issues and provide some dedicated resources and staff to do it. So it's really, really exciting to be part of this new branch. Yeah. And so I'm not part of these responsibilities at all, but again, I can give you content. So National Freshwater Strategy. So this is one of the pieces of the new Canada Water Agency I thought you'd be interested in, as I said. And I'm not involved in the development of this strategy, but I brought two of my colleagues here today who are attending just this session as backup for me to help if you have any questions related to the development of this strategy. So Jim Young is the data lead, and these are our Canada Water Agency staff. And Jeff Gunn is a senior analyst who works with Jeff. So it's with Jim. So if we have questions, we can talk to them. So the freshwater strategy, it's talking of dealing with freshwater data better, predated the Canada Water Agency. There were workshops held in 2021 to discuss the need for a strategy. And there was an understanding, just like water management, that data is fragmented. And this is, again, probably nothing new to you. It exists in pockets, and that data is not always comparable and does not always talk to each other. So this new freshwater strategy aims to enable Canadians to have access to the best available freshwater. The strategy will facilitate integrated, coordinated, and standardized approach to freshwater data management and enable existing data repositories to communicate with each other. There's no plan to develop a new big super portal or super repository. It's everybody's going to keep their data where they are with its own ownership, and the strategy will help to facilitate communication between those. And it'll make it easier to integrate data from multiple sources across multiple domains: water quality, quantity, aquatic ecosystems, and freshwater. And this strategy is being developed collaboratively with key partners, the different governments, Indigenous and NGOs, and they are working with the Gordon Foundation, Carolyn Dubois, who's chairman of the Atlantic Data Stream. So it's really good to have those people in the strategy too. So I'll move on from that. So this is the area I work in, Freshwater Action Plan. So this is sort of the delivery on the ground of some of the funding that's going to be coming through the Canada Water Agency. So in addition to the national policy functions, there is programming now for 8 watersheds across the country. We're investing $650 million over 10 years to strengthen the protection and restoration of these freshwater watersheds across the country. The ones there in pink are the new ones. So this Freshwater Action Plan is not new. And the 3 big watersheds, Great Lakes, St. Lawrence, and Lake Winnipeg have had funding for years. And so the new Freshwater Action Plan is now funding these other ones that you see in pink, including the Wolastoq St. John River. So how and why were these chosen? Atlantic region is big. Why are we just working in the Wolastoq? Well, the key component for these watersheds is that they're transboundary nature. One of the keys anyway. So they all go into the US. So that triggers the federal government to be involved. In this region, we've now got funding for the Wolastoq, which I'll talk about in a minute. And the reason it's one of the rationale for the Wolastoq is that it's the second largest river in the Maritimes, second Atlantic Canada after the Churchill. It's an international and interprovincial waterway, so it goes through Quebec, New Brunswick, and Maine. And it is in the traditional territory of the Wolastoq people, and it's also a designated heritage. There's lots of land use stressors, and those stressors are leading to excess nutrients and bacteria and other harmful pollutants. We heard some of that yesterday with the issue with cyanobacteria from Sarah. And there's a lot of players involved on the ground doing work, so we're working with them. Just want to highlight some of the stuff that we've been doing in the Wolastoq. So we have been working there before this new Freshwater Action Plan came about. Just to highlight a couple of key things. We were working on the ground, building relationships with some of the people who are actually doing the work to kind of see what was happening, what the issues were, and to build the story of why we needed longer term resources devoted to not only just this end of the country, really. We didn't have anything in the east. We were working on the Wolastoq interim statement of cooperation since 2017. So since it's an international watershed, we have this nation-to-nation relationship now, which includes the 7 Wolastoq nations, 5 US federal agencies, and then ECCC and DFO. So we've all signed this aspirational agreement, which allows us to work together on issues in the watershed of mutual concern. So it's not a binding agreement. We don't have the big, huge binational agreements like some of the other watersheds across the country, the Great Lakes. We're just starting small, and we're going to build from there. And then the third thing there is you may be familiar with the Atlantic Ecosystems funding. So that funding has evolved over time. It's funded different areas in the past, but over the last several years, we've been focused in on the Wolastoq, and we've had 23 projects supporting water quality and about $4 million that we've been there. All right, so this is the new part. So we have the new Wolastoq St. John River Freshwater Ecosystem Initiative. We got funding for 10 years out, which is really cool for a government program, and rare, if you ask me. Like this is something we don't usually see, but along with the water agency, we got this funding to support these watersheds. So we've got money for internal work. So within the department, we've got money for doing science and policy work. Some of our scientists will be doing their own research in the river. And then we've got money for external. So we're supporting external organizations to address some of the key issues, including nutrient management and cyanobacteria, and some other things as well. And so I'll just put a plug here now. We do have a current call for proposals out that just was released a few weeks ago for the new Wolastoq St. John River Freshwater Ecosystem Initiative. And it's now open until March 22nd for applications. And we're going to be doing projects on science, on impacts of nutrients and algae blooms and infected mats and other harmful pollutants, nutrient reduction, and then a component on Indigenous knowledge and capacity building on water quality issues. Projects are going to be up to $250,000 over 3 years. and they'll require a 30% match, but all the details, we can send you the links to the details of this funding. So that's the main part of the new freshwater ecosystem initiative in the Wolastoq. We'll be continuing with the transboundary collaboration, working to build partnerships and relationships with all of the players and partners in the river. So I did want to say too, so setting that aside, the Wolastoq, this is the community eco-action community funding program, which many of you are probably familiar with. This is also moved over to the Canada Water Agency and will continue to focus on freshwater, but this is open across the country. So didn't want to leave you just with just the funding for the Wolastoq, but this is available to community groups. And that map that you see there is projects that have been funded in the past. You can see there's been lots of projects in this region. And again, they focus on water quality. And there's also a current call for proposals open. And the projects fund projects that lead to measurable environmental results, increase awareness in the community to improve the environment, and they result in sustainable outcomes and engagement following project completion. So up to $100,000 per project over 3 years. And this program requires a match of at least 50% of the total project. That could be cash and or in-kind contributions, other than the government. So that's it. That's in summary. Just wanted to review there. So the Canada Water Agency will continue to build. We're working on putting the structures in place to make this agency a reality and get those programs going. And we're implementing the freshwater action plan in those 8 key watersheds. Some of them are new, some of them are not. And so we're at various levels of maturity in the development of the programs there, and we're learning from each other. And then the funding support for NGOs, academia, Indigenous organizations to address freshwater quality issues through those 2 programs that I. So thank you. And that's my email there. If you have any questions about CWA or freshwater action plan or any of this stuff. And I think we're going to do questions. And as a reminder, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thanks, Colleen. That's fantastic. Yeah, if anybody has questions, they could put their hands up. Either raise a hand with your webcam on, or actually do it virtually with an icon, which you can access at the bottom of your screen. Laura, did you have your hand raised, or were you just demonstrating?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And reminder that my colleagues Jim and Jeff are here about the data strategy. If you have some questions about that, they can help me with the answers.
So if you're wondering where to put your hand up, it's on the reactions tab at the bottom of the screen. Has anyone got any questions for Colleen? People have either gone to sleep or actually you've covered everything people wanted to say.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but I'm always around if you have questions that you want to talk to offline.
Colleen, well, I've got a question for me. You mentioned that the AEI was $4 million with 23 projects. Do you have I'm happy to be told can't reveal this at the moment, whatever, but is there an allocation for what's available in the pot for the Wolastoq ecosystem initiative?
Yes, maybe I didn't mention that. So for that funding, it's 1.1 million per year. So you can apply for projects up to 250,000 over 3 years. But our allocation that we have for all projects is 1.1 million a year. So that could be like about 10 projects, 10, 12 projects a year.
Yep. Cool, that's great. I know there are many in the Wolastoq who'll be really interested in that. So
yeah. Oh, I see a hand there.
Oh, Julie.
Hi. I just had a question concerning the data management strategy. Does that include macro invertebrates, or is it just, I was wondering, like techniques like cabins and stuff like that? Like, does the strategy include those types of techniques also? Or is it just for water quality, like samples?
I think so, but I'm gonna let my colleague Jim answer that for me. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yes, absolutely. So the 4 water domains that we're looking at for the data strategy includes water quality, water quantity, freshwater management, as well as aquatic ecosystems. So that does cover things like cabin.